In the previous video, we made preparations for our player, or making our player jump. So now we are actually going to do that. But before that, we need to create a couple of functions. First, here, we need to create a function set power. And inside of this function, what we are going to do is we are going to check if we can actually set the power, which is our Boolean variable right here. So set power. If this is true, then we are going to say force x is equal to or plus equal to, and here we are going to use our threshold x multiplied by time dot delta time. And we are going to do the same thing for force y. So force y plus equal to, and here we are going to say threshold y multiplied by time dot delta time. And here we are going to add each frame, the threshold multiplied by delta time to our force y. Now here we need to perform a check. If our force, so force x is greater than, let's say 6.5f, so 6.5, not 6.6. So if it's greater than 6.5, then our force x is going to be equal to 6.5, because we are not going to allow our force to be greater than 6.5, excuse me. And here we are going to check if our force y is greater than 13.5, then we are going to set our force y to be equal to 13.5f. So simply just controlling the number or the force x and force y. So we are not going to allow them to be greater than 6.5 and 13.5. And we need to call this function in the update function. So here we are going to say void update, because we want to set this each frame. So here we are going to call set power. And practically when we call here our set power, when we touch our button, we are going to set it to be equal to true when we touch the button. So when we touch it, this is going to be equal to true, meaning that we are going to set our power here in our update function. And here, what I'm going to do when we release the button, so here I'm going to check if we are not setting the power. So practically, if we are not setting the power, here I'm going to call a jump function. So not jump button script, but a jump function. And this is going to be our jump function. So here I'm going to say void jump. And this is the function that's actually going to make our player jump. Here, what we are going to do is we are going to say my body dot velocity is equal to new vector 2, and here I'm going to apply force x, and here I'm going to apply force y, which is actually going to make our player jump. And immediately after that, what we need is we need to reset our values. So we need to say force x is equal to force y is equal to 0. Because if we leave our forces like this, if our player jumps and lands on a platform and we don't reset the forces, then they are going to stay the same. They are going to be 6.5 or 13.5 or a number lower than that. And we don't want that. And here we are also going to inform did jump is equal to true, but we are going to use this later because we are going to actually use this did jump variable in our void on trigger enter 2D, and here I'm going to simply type collider 2D, and here I'm going to name it target. Here we are simply going to use this variable did jump, if did jump, in order to know when we are touching the platform after we are jumping, because here we are initially setting our player. So our player initially is standing on the platform, which is immediately going to, make a collision. But we don't want to call that collision if we did not jump previously. And because of that, we are using this did jump. And in order to use our, my body velocity, we also need to create here another function. So here I'm going to say void initialize. So initialize function. And inside of this function, I'm simply going to say my body is equal to get component. So let me just type it right. So get component, and here I'm going to pass the rigid body 2D in order to get the component. I'm going to do the same thing for the animator, so simply type get component, and this is going to get us the animator. So let me just type it right, so animator. And again, I need to finish this. I have spelling problems all the time. And I'm also going to call this one in the awake function in order to, well, initialize it and get our references. So simply getting the my body or the rigid body that's attached to the game object. So if we go here, select the player, we see that the player has the rigid body and our player also has the animator. And we use, well, practically we use get component to get those references. And again, here we are setting the power, and after that we are jumping. We can even go here for our powers, so force X and force Y, and we can type here serialize field in order to select the player. And now we can even see these forces here when we are actually, well, testing this out. Now we can simply go and test this out. So if I run the game, and I'm going to select the player, and notice now the forces when I press the button. So we see that the forces are, well, moving, and they are going to up to 6.5 and 13.5. So you can see that in the bottom right corner of my player jump script. If I release the button now, we see our player is jumping, well, very high. If I even release it now, when I don't pump up, well, the forces that much, again we see our player jumping. Now we don't want this kind of behavior. So how can we fix it? Well, practically we can go here under edit and then go under project settings and then go here under physics 2D. So click on that, and for the force here, or for the gravity, we see that the gravity is set at negative 9.81. And we are going to set it at negative 30, which is going to change, well, how gravity is going to function. So again, under edit, selection, project settings, physics 2D, change the gravity on the y-axis at negative 30. And now if I run the game, and if I hold it and we see how we are jumping, well, more smoothly, and we are applying a nice force. So now if I jump again, we see how we are jumping, and we can jump from one platform to another platform. What am I quickly going to do is go here in the tags and create a tag. This is going to be a platform tag. So platform. And I'm going to, well, tag our platform with the platform tag and hit apply so that that change applies to our prefab, And here in our onTrigger enter, we are going to check if our target.tag is equal to platform. Then we are going to say here debug.log, and here I'm simply going to say landed on platform. And now I'm going to show you why we need this didJump Boolean variable, because now we need to detect when our player is on the platform. If I run the game now, we are going to immediately detect that we are on the platform. But we want to increase the score when the player is on the platform. So if we run the game and the player immediately lands on the platform and we increase the score, it makes no sense. For that, we need to keep track, well, when our player, well, did jump actually. So for that here, we need to, well, simply copy this, and we need to pass it here in if we did jump actually. But here immediately when we set up, or when we jump, we are going to set didJump to true. And here what we are going to say didJump is equal to false. So immediately if we did jump and we have landed practically on a collider, or we have collided, then we are going to set didJump to be equal to false. We can also set that here. So if we did jump on the platform, then, well, we can set our didJump to be equal to false. But we are going to set it here because we can only collide with the platform, or when we set up a collider to detect when we fall down and we die. So if we die, we are going to restart the game. So practically it will not be important if we call didJump here or here. But we are going to call didJump is equal to false here in order to not execute this again. And here we are simply going to say debug.log, and here I'm going to simply say landed on platform after jumping. So after jumping, in order to know that, well, we landed after jumping. Now if I run the game, we are not going to see here landed on platform printed out in the console, only after we jump. So if I jump on the second platform and I need to land on it for this to actually work, so again, I failed at my own game. So okay, again, failing at my own game. Let me try one more time. So hop, okay. Here we see landed on platform after jumping. And this is why, well, we need to use this didJump variable in order to determine when we have jumped actually and when we have landed on our platform. So we are going to, well, continue to program our script in the next video. In this video, I just wanted to, well, program the logic for jumping, which we did. So see you in the next video.